One day, the town mayor was sitting as a criminal sentenced to death was brought before him for execution. The guy bowed his head, and the executioner prepared his sword to behead him, but the sword could not penetrate the boy's neck and broke from the force. The mayor was furious and ordered them to take him back to the cell immediately. While he was in the cell, a girl came to him and began talking, curious to know his story. She asked him his name and where he came from, and the boy started telling her. He told her his name was Gabimaru, and that he came from a village called Iwagakure. The girl realized then that he was one of the ninja and figured out the reason for his physical strength. She asked him to show her a glimpse of his power, but he refused. Later, the mayor summoned him again for execution. They tied him up in the town square and started gathering wood to burn him. As we all know, fire is extremely harsh on humans, so the executioners first tried to kill him with spears. But the spears broke. Burning was their only option left. And so, they lit the fire, and it blazed fiercely. The mayor thought Gabimaru had died, and felt pleased with what he'd done. But suddenly, Gabimaru emerged from the flames without a scratch, shocking everyone, and they sent him back to prison once more. The girl came to him again and asked, "Why do you resist?" He replied, "I'm not resisting. I have no ties to life. In truth, I'm just waiting for death." The girl then asked him to tell her his story and how he was captured, since he was doomed to die anyway. He agreed and began telling her. He said, "When I was a child, the village chief killed my father and mother right in front of me, then took me from between their corpses. Unlike the other children, I didn't feel fear or horror at the sight of blood. The village chief raised me and taught me to kill without mercy." There was no trace of emotion on his face as he spoke. Then the mayor took him again for execution. This time, they tied him to a wooden platform and brought 2 bulls, tying each bull to one of his legs in an attempt to tear him in half. They lit a fire behind the bulls to make them run at full speed, but Gabimaru pulled his legs back with great force and brought the bulls toward him instead. The mayor screamed in frustration, no longer knowing how to kill the boy. At that moment, the girl returned and asked him, "Why did you resist this time? If you have no reason to live, why didn't you just let yourself die?" Gabimaru got angry at the question and replied, "I don't understand." She said, "Let me change the question. Why were you captured?" Gabimaru then started to share the full details of his story. "In our village, the men kill, and the women only give birth. There's no love, no normal life, only missions to fulfill. When I reached the age of marriage, the village chief sent his daughter to live with me, and we got married. She was a kind, simple girl who just wanted a normal life. She would tell me to take off my sandals when entering, she'd laugh when I sat down to eat, and she didn't care about anything else. I grew irritated with her, so I went to her father and asked for a divorce. He didn't like that and told me he'd allow it only if I completed one last mission first. I went out to carry it out, but he sent his men after me, and I was captured. The authorities took me too, and I was sentenced to death. Even if I escaped, the village chief would kill me, so I have no reason to live." The girl listened to the story in silence until the day ended. That evening, as she was walking, a man came up beside her and said, "Be careful with that boy. You don't know how dangerous he is." She asked him why, and he said, "When we tried to capture him, he killed 20 of our men. No one could stop him. He's not an ordinary person. He's a monster. No one can stand against." The girl was stunned by what she heard, especially since Gabimaru had told her earlier that he didn't resist. At that time, Gabimaru was sitting in his cell, wondering why he still clung to life, even though he didn't know what his purpose was anymore. The next day, they brought him to be boiled in oil, but once again, he didn't die and came out unharmed. He was shocked by himself, unable to understand why he was holding on to life so fiercely. Then, the girl closed her book, while the mayor was furious and didn't know what else to do. She said to him, "Don't worry, I'll be the one to kill him. Just make the arrangements." Everything was prepared. The soldiers took Gabimaru to the final room, while the mayor stared at him and laughed. Gabimaru entered the room and saw Sagiri standing before him. She had tied up her sleeves and prepared her sword. She turned to everyone and said, "I'm ready." In that moment, Gabimaru felt fear for the first time. Sagiri looked at him and said, "Don't worry, I'll kill you and free you from all this." Gabimaru felt her strength and realized she could kill him. He broke free from the wooden restraints. Sagiri immediately attacked him, but he dodged and jumped away. Sagiri stood still and looked at him. You would have died if you hadn't dodged that strike. Did you change your mind? Gabimaru had been cut on the neck and was surprised by himself, as if he no longer wanted to die. Sagiri attacked again, but he evaded her once more. Then Sagiri stood behind him, looked at her sword, and said, "After hearing your story, I became sure of one thing. Despite everything you said about your wife, you clearly love her." Gabimaru was shocked and began to recall every moment they had shared. How she used to ask him to remove his sandals before entering, and he would happily obey. When they would sit down to eat together, he would feel genuine happiness, because she had given him moments he had never lived before. He didn't just love her, he adored her. At that moment, he charged at Sagiri and shouted, "I don't want to live. I'm Gabimaru the Hollow, and I won't show you mercy." But then he remembered his wife's words. "You're not hollow like they say. You're human. And you have feelings." He looked at his hand and said, "I've done so many terrible things. I feel like I'll only drag you down with me." His wife appeared before him, gently embraced him, and said, "You won't hurt me. I love you." She remembered how her father, the village chief, burned her face so she would forget she was a girl and obey orders without question. She softly approached her beloved and said, "Stay with me." She gently lifted his head and then, suddenly, kissed him. His face turned red with embarrassment, and he didn't know what to do. She laughed and said, "No one hollow would blush like that." At the same time, Gabimaru was fiercely fighting Sagiri. He didn't give her a chance to catch her breath. She couldn't keep up with his pace, and finally asked him, "Why don't you stop killing?" Gabimaru then remembered that on one of his missions, he used to bring his wife trophies he had taken from his victims, but instead of being angry, she was happy with those gifts. However, he later realized he was feeding her from the spoils of sin, and he decided to repent. He went to the village chief and said, "I've decided to stop killing. I want to live a normal life with your daughter." But the chief didn't accept that. He sent his soldiers after Gabimaru and reported him to the authorities. He was arrested and realized then that he could never live a normal life. So he decided to surrender himself to be executed. But his love for his wife kept him from dying. Even while fighting Sagiri, he was resisting for her sake. He was on the verge of killing Sagiri when she suddenly pulled out a piece of paper. He calmed down and asked, "What's that?" Sagiri replied, "This is an official pardon. It's a letter from the shogun. With it, you'll gain your freedom. Not only that, you'll also be under our protection. Even the chief of your village won't be able to touch you or your wife." Hope returned to Gabimaru's heart. He said, "Explain everything to me. I don't understand what's going on." Sagiri began to explain what he had to do in order to receive the pardon. In the far south, there is a legendary land called Shinsenkyo. It's a beautiful, fertile land filled with every kind of plant. At the center of this land, there's something called the Elixir of Life. Whoever drinks from this elixir gains eternal life and can never die. When the shogun learned of it, he sent his soldiers to retrieve it, but none of them returned. Then he sent another unit, and they too never came back. One cloudy day, a ship returned. It was filled with flowers. The soldiers were overjoyed and reached in to examine the blooms, but what was inside wasn't just ordinary flowers. It was one of the soldiers who had been sent there. He had transformed into something strange. No one could understand how or why. Gabimaru was confused and asked Sagiri if she was sure this wasn't just a myth, because it all sounded like a lie. Sagiri answered that everything she told him was true. After seeing that sight, the shogun became certain the elixir truly existed and was determined to obtain it. He gathered all the Asaimon around him and ordered them to collect criminals sentenced to death. Whoever could travel to that island and return with the elixir would be granted an official pardon, and all their crimes would be erased. When Gabimaru heard this, he was overwhelmed with joy. For the first time, he felt there was real hope of returning to his beloved. Sagiri then told him about his wife and said, "Since you were captured, she's locked herself in her home and hasn't come out. Even now, she's still waiting for you. She holds on to great hope that you'll return." Then she said, "Now that I've told you everything, I want to ask you one last question. Do you still want to die?" A fire lit up in Gabimaru's eyes. Hope returned to him. Sagiri looked at him and said, "Are you willing to risk your life and travel with criminals sentenced to death just so you can return and live with her?" But the mayor interrupted angrily, shouting, "There's no way I'll let him leave. I won't allow you to take him from here. Men, kill him, and if that girl gets in the way, kill her too." At that moment, Gabimaru remembered his wife and tears streamed down his face. He turned to Sagiri and said, "You asked me before to show you my power, and I refused, didn't I?" She said, "That's right." He replied, "Then watch, now." Suddenly, he unleashed his power, and flames burst out everywhere. In less than a second, he had taken down everyone. No one was left standing against him. Even Sagiri had grabbed the mayor and was holding him at sword point. The scene was pure magnificence. Gabimaru stepped off the bodies of the soldiers and said with passion, "Let's go get the elixir." She agreed, and from that moment, the story is about to get freaking hot. On the way, Sagiri began to recall her past. She remembered seeing her father, the leader of the Asaimon, executing a poet who was reciting verses of poetry. His strike was so swift and precise that the poet felt no pain and continued reciting lines even after his head was severed. Sagiri was deeply moved by that scene and decided she wanted to become like her father. Though she was a girl, she rivaled any other Asaimon in strength and could take down her opponent with a single strike. But her strikes were never like her father's. She always felt fear afterward, as if she had tormented the ones she killed before delivering the final blow. For this reason, she chose to travel with Gabimaru, to understand her weakness and try to better herself. Eventually, they reached the shogun's place, where all the criminals had gathered. The shogun and his men informed them of the mission and explained what they had to do. But the criminals didn't like it and began shouting and objecting. The shogun then told them that whoever returned with the elixir would receive an official pardon and permanent protection. No one would be able to harm them. The group quieted down, and excitement began to build. Then they were shown a map of the island, along with an explanation of the dangers awaiting them there. The criminals didn't believe it, so they were shown live proof. When they saw it, they were all stunned and couldn't believe their eyes. One criminal didn't like what he saw and tried to walk away, but a single strike took off his head instantly. Then the speaker continued, "Each one of you will be assigned an Asaimon to accompany and monitor you. You must return with them, or your head will be cut off." Each Asaimon placed their sword at the neck of the criminal they were assigned to, including Sagiri. At that moment, the shogun said, "There are too many of you, so reduce your numbers yourselves." Someone asked, "What do you mean?" Another criminal answered, "It simply means we kill each other." Suddenly, the battle erupted. The place turned into a war zone. Each criminal fought to kill the other, mercilessly. Violence and blood were everywhere. Gabimaru sat in his place, unmoving. Meanwhile, the shogun and his court watched the slaughter and were thoroughly entertained. The man standing beside the shogun began describing the most dangerous criminals in the group. He started with the boy who had founded a thieves' village and spared no one. Then he pointed at a girl who had been involved in the invasion of a fortress. After that, he mentioned a tall man, one of the greatest swordsmen alive, and finally he got to the living legend, Gabimaru the Hollow. He said, "He's the most dangerous of them all." The shogun looked at Gabimaru, still sitting motionless, and said mockingly, "Are you kidding me? He looks pitiful and weak." The man replied, "On the contrary, he's the strongest." Meanwhile, Sagiri was standing beside another Asaimon member, visibly anxious. He mocked her and said, "This is not your place. You should have stayed home with dignity. Killing and warfare aren't for someone like you." Sagiri was overwhelmed with fear as she looked at the horrific scene before her. She could no longer stand. Her mind flashed back to childhood memories, when she was beaten by the people of her village. She remembered hiding from them after being wounded on the head, not knowing what to do. Only one thought echoed in her mind: if someone attacks you, strike first. And indeed, a few criminals noticed her daze and rushed to attack her. But she dodged all their blows and tore them apart, as if she had finally awakened from her trance. Suddenly, Gabimaru stepped forward and stood before the shogun. "This slaughter is pointless. There are other ways to narrow down the fighters." Everyone was stunned by his words. "What the hell are you talking about? Are you insane?" He replied, "Not killing when no killing is necessary. That's the highest form of wisdom, isn't it?" Sagiri was moved by his words, but the others paid him no attention. One man then called out to a criminal, saying, "Kill that boy, and I'll send you to the island." The criminal, excited by the offer, grabbed a rock and hurled it at Gabimaru, who easily dodged it and said, "Since you've started the fight, be ready for the consequences." Gabimaru entered battle mode, launching at them with incredible speed, killing anyone in his path. No one could stand against him. Everyone was stunned by his power and the swiftness of his movements. The shogun and the others finally realized the truth. This wasn't just a man, or a criminal. This was Gabimaru the Hollow. Sagiri watched everything unfold, unable to believe her eyes. She gripped her sword, needing to confirm what she was seeing. She was in shock, and so was the man standing beside her. Then the shogun called an end to the fighting, and announced the names of the criminals who would head to the island. The real story was about to ignite. Everyone finally arrived on the island. Gabimaru and Sagiri were walking through it, with Gabimaru's hand bound. He began telling her about the elixir. Our village chief was once targeted by many tribes and soldiers trying to kill him. They attacked him with all kinds of weapons, but no one could kill him. Even when they pierced his skull, nothing happened. He stayed alive, all because he had taken a medicine from a distant land. Yes, the elixir of life is real, and we need to find it, fast. He then freed his hand from the rope. Sagiri became angry and ordered him to tie it back immediately. He said, "Stop fussing over trivial things. We need to act as one team or we'll die." Furious, Sagiri raised her sword to his neck and said, "Team, did you forget you're a criminal? Tie your hand back now." He replied, "Fine," and lowered his hand for her to tie. As she was doing so, Gabimaru suddenly took a blow to the head. Yes, another criminal had reached the area and decided to kill whoever he found, hoping to buy himself time to search for the elixir in peace. Sagiri panicked, thinking Gabimaru was dead, but he got up and said, "Don't worry, I'm fine. But look at him. His hands aren't bound. Unlike you, who insisted on tying mine." Sagiri was surprised and asked one of the asaemon nearby why the criminal wasn't restrained and why he was being treated that way. The man answered, "These are criminals. What happens between them isn't my concern. I'm just here to observe. I won't argue with a criminal over a piece of rope." Gabimaru told her to let it go and not get involved. Sagiri grew even angrier, and so did the criminal, whose name was Keoi. He drew his weapons and said to Gabimaru, "Get ready to die." Gabimaru took a combat stance and said, "Come at me." But Sagiri interrupted, "You need to tie your hands back first." He agreed, but suddenly, Koen struck him with another weapon, followed by a second hit, and began to unleash a flurry of attacks on him. Then, out of nowhere, Gabimaru said, "All done tying, now let's begin." Suddenly, Gabimaru leapt into the air, lifted himself with his weapon, and as he came down, delivered a powerful blow to Koen's stomach. It was clear Gabimaru wasn't messing around. But Koen wasn't easy either. He wore strong armor that protected him from the strike. He laughed with rage and said, "I'm going to kill you now." But Gabimaru attacked him again, with even more power and speed, and managed to defeat him, even with his hands still bound. Then an asaemon appeared, cut off Khan's head, and picked it up to deliver it. Sagiri and Gabimaru were surprised and asked, "You took him down that easily?" He replied, "Yes. You two don't understand what awaits you. Ever since the ships landed, everyone's been killing each other. It was a real bloodbath. But all of that is nothing compared to what's coming." Sagiri didn't understand what he meant, so he said, "Soon, the criminals will begin slaughtering one another until no one is left but the strongest. Then, whoever survives will search for the elixir without interference. If I were you, I'd kill my criminal and run before the real massacre starts. Or, better yet, I could kill him for you." At that moment, Gabimaru stepped up to him and said, "This has nothing to do with you. Step back. I want to finish this and return to my wife." The asaemon replied, "Fine, but before I go, let me tell you something important. The shogun didn't trust your abilities, so he hired a ninja clan to retrieve the elixir. Yes, the Iwagakure clan. They'll arrive in a few days." Then he left. As soon as he disappeared, Gabimaru suddenly attacked Sagiri. She was shocked and shouted, "Calm down! What the hell are you doing?" But Gabimaru wasn't seeing anything clearly. Blinded by rage, he was about to kill her. At the same time, a criminal attacked his assigned asaemon, who tried to defend himself with his sword but failed. The criminal shattered his bones and devoured him. Other criminals began killing their Asaimon observers. Chaos broke loose. Gabimaru kept attacking Sagiri like a madman while she tried to survive, asking him why he was doing this. He said, "The Iwagakure clan is coming soon. I have to find the elixir before they do. Everything I've done will be meaningless if I don't beat them to it. I'm sorry, but you have to die. You're only going to slow me down." Sagiri couldn't understand a thing and just kept defending herself. As for Gabimaru, he was conflicted. Every time he tried to strike her down, he hesitated at the last second. He remembered his wife's words and the promise he had made to her. He didn't want to break that vow. But then the voice of the village chief echoed in his mind, and his expression changed. His savagery increased. He broke Sagiri's sword. She was on the verge of being killed, but she used her sword's sheath as a shield to protect herself. Gabimaru, blinded by his goal, attacked her again. She kept defending until she collapsed, exhausted to the ground. He stood over her, ready to end her life, but couldn't bring himself to do it. An intense inner conflict tore at him. One part of him wanted to carry out the village chief's orders and kill her. The other part clung to the promise he made to the woman he loved and refused to betray it. Gabimaru was battling himself, unable to take that final step. Sagiri noticed and thought to herself, "Every time I see him about to kill someone, I see the same expression on his face. He's not hollow like they say. He's a human being with emotions." At that moment, Gabimaru was crying. He wanted to kill her, but he couldn't. With regret, he said, "Have I really become this weak? If I stay like this, I'll never make it back to my beloved." Sagiri gently placed her hand over his sword and said, "This isn't weakness. It's your acceptance of your feelings. Your tears aren't shameful. They're the essence of true strength." Her words echoed what his wife had once told him, leaving him stunned and frozen in place. "I'll forgive you for what you did this time, but next time, I won't. All I want is to see how you'll take back your life when you finally return to the one you love." Gabimaru was overwhelmed and didn't respond. At that same time, elsewhere in the forest, two others were walking and observing the strange land. A flying insect appeared and bit one of them on the arm. He looked at it and was shocked to see it had a human face. He immediately remembered the soldier who returned covered in flowers and cut off his own arm without hesitation. The Asaman assigned to him was stunned and asked why he did that, but the man didn't answer. Within seconds, his arm had begun turning into a tree. Just one sting from those insects meant certain death. Suddenly, huge, monstrous creatures attacked them, putting their lives at risk. The beasts lunged. Death seemed inevitable. At the same time, other monsters attacked Gabimaru and Sagiri, surrounding them completely. Gabimaru took a combat stance and told Sagiri, "Stay behind me." She nodded and stepped back. He charged at the monsters fiercely, but they were bizarre and difficult to kill. He wanted to retreat and come up with a plan, as the village chief had taught him, but the creatures had them completely surrounded. Sagiri stood frozen, unsure what to do. Gabimaru then unleashed his fire energy and tore through the beasts, wiping them out entirely. His power had grown immensely, and he slaughtered the creatures without mercy. Sagiri couldn't handle the sight. So much blood, it overwhelmed her, and she began to lose consciousness. Just as she was about to collapse, a monster snuck up behind her to strike, but Gabimaru noticed it just in time and saved her. He carried her in his arms. The monster tried to hit him, but he countered and killed it instantly. At that moment, a group of people arrived at the scene. It seemed they were potential allies. Sagiri recognized them. One of them was named Senta, the other, Genji. They asked her to work together, but Gabimaru refused to cooperate with anyone. Then a girl approached Gabimaru and tried to seduce him with her body, but he stopped her. She introduced herself as Yuzuriha, claiming she had information that could help him. She offered to assist him in finding the elixir. Her words caught his attention, so he agreed. The group then began explaining what they had learned about the island. They revealed that the insects here weren't ordinary. They were once humans, and a single sting is fatal. As they spoke, Sagiri suddenly felt dizzy and collapsed unconscious. Everyone was shocked and rushed to carry her, trying to figure out what had happened. At the same time, one of the Asaimon was fighting off monsters. He recalled his past, how he had earned the shogun's trust, and become one of the elite. He had been assigned to escort a criminal to Shinsenkyo Island, and that criminal was his brother. Yes, they were siblings. In the past, when they were cornered, the older brother sacrificed himself to save Toma and said, "Come back one day to set me free." Now, both were on the island together, determined to eliminate all the other criminals and monsters and claim the elixir for themselves. At that moment, a monster had grabbed Toma by the hair, ready to kill him. But his older brother didn't move to help. Instead, he said, "Save yourself." That snapped Tomei back to reality. He cut off the monster's arm, while his brother struck from behind. The two fought side by side, tearing through the beasts until not a single one remained. Elsewhere, several criminals had finished battling monsters and began heading toward the forest. Meanwhile, Sagiri remained unconscious, and the group was carrying her to a safe place. They finally arrived, with Sagiri still passed out. During that time, she was dreaming, a painful memory of her past. Her father looked down on her, simply because she was a girl. Despite her efforts to become an Asimon, she suddenly woke up in a panic and found Genji in front of her. She asked what had happened, and he told her she had passed out from the insect's scent, so they brought her there to rest. Sagiri quickly got up and went to check on Gabimaru. She found him sitting outside, calmly preparing food, and felt relieved. Later, everyone gathered to share the information they had so far. Gabimaru spoke first. The island was extremely dangerous, and those who died here turned into plants. At that moment, Yuzuriha threw food in his face, furious that she had just eaten something so disgusting. Gabimaru responded that the food had nothing to do with the dead. It was just an ordinary plant. Then Senta chimed in, saying the statues scattered across the island belonged to an ancient religion. He was still researching them and hoped to discover something soon. Sagiri added that the monsters seemed to have no internal organs. Hearing all of this, Gabimaru's determination reignited. He said, "All of this points to one thing. Yes, the elixir is on this island, and all these creatures are trying to keep it hidden. I have to find it." Everyone was energized and the mood calmed after the meeting. Later, Sagiri went off to a quiet place to reflect on her journey. She felt weak, realizing she hadn't achieved anything significant. It was her assigned criminal who saved her. She didn't know how to process that feeling. Just then, Genji walked in and said, "You should leave. You're of no use here. Tomorrow morning you'll take the ship and go home. Don't worry about your criminal. I'll handle him myself." Sagiri stood her ground and replied, "Who said I want to leave? You don't get to decide my fate." Senta appeared, having overheard the entire conversation, and said, "And who's to say the way back is safe? No one has ever escaped this island." Genji fell silent, unable to offer a response. At the same time, two people were trying to flee the island, the girl, Nurugai, and her assigned Asaimon, Tenza. After hearing her story, Tenza sympathized deeply and said they needed to escape, and that he would protect her no matter what. Nurugai was overjoyed, and for the first time in a while, hope filled the air between them. But as they continued on, they saw a ship in the distance. Tenza was thrilled, but Nurugai grew suspicious. It didn't feel like a rescue ship, and she was right. It was a wreck from one of the earlier failed escape attempts. Suddenly, strange monsters emerged from the wreckage, trapping them. Tenza drew his sword as the beasts lunged, tearing through what remained of the ship. The two leapt onto the debris and kept running. As they ran, Nurugai recalled her past. She had lived peacefully with her tribe in the remote mountains of Sanka, far from the government's reach, but the shogun sent soldiers to wipe them out. The soldiers disguised themselves as lost travelers, and Nurugai helped guide them to her village, only for them to betray her and slaughter everyone. She was captured and sentenced to death. But Tenza, after learning the truth, chose to save her and help her earn a pardon. As they continued their escape, Tenza slashed a path through the monsters, clearing the way for them to run. Eventually, they reached the ship's edge and discovered the corpse of an Asamon, the same one who had left earlier. Then, more beasts surged from all directions and tore him apart. They were completely surrounded. Seeing the Asaimon's body triggered a painful memory for Nurugai, the death of her grandfather, which she had witnessed with her own eyes, and blamed herself for. She sat down in defeat and said to Tenza, "Go, I'll die here." But Tenza refused. "Tell me, what do you want? Do you want to die here, or do you want to survive?" She replied, "Leave me. I was the reason my whole tribe was wiped out. If you stay, you'll die because of me too. Just go." Did you think he will really leave her? Of course not. Instead, he threw her a weapon and said, "I'm not leaving you. If you want to survive, you have no choice. Fight." They spotted a ship in the distance, and Tenza told her they would swim toward it when he gave the signal. And just like that, he gave the sign, and they both sprinted. Dodging monsters from every direction, they dove into the water and swam with everything they had. Barely escaping, they reached the shore, completely exhausted, their bodies bloodied. They sat down, washed off, and rested. Meanwhile, Genji remained firm in his stance and told Sagari, "You'll leave tomorrow morning. This work is too much for a girl like you. You should go back." Then he walked away. That night, everyone was asleep, except Gabimaru, who was standing watch. Sagari approached and began talking with him. He thanked her for what she'd done earlier and said, "If it weren't for your words on the first day, I'd still be consumed by rage. Thank you for everything, Sagari." She thanked him too, knowing now that he was the one who treated her wounds. Gabimaru then opened up, telling her what was on his mind. "I was hesitant and didn't trust you when we first arrived. When I heard the Iwagakure clan was coming, I panicked. I let fear control me and acted poorly. But now, I need to calm down and face my problems one by one, so I can earn my pardon and return to my wife." Sagari was touched by his words and began to feel more open toward him. The next morning, Genji woke up and said to Sagari, "Come on, I'll prepare the boat and take you to the sea." But she refused and replied, "Sorry, I've decided to stay. Instead of running from my problems, I'll face them and do everything I can." Genji protested, saying, "What problems are you talking about? You're a woman. The shogun is waiting for you. Your duty is to bear a child with the shogun's bloodline. Sure, your sword skills are good, but real battles need experience, and you don't have it." Sagari lowered her head and said, "I've heard those words all my life. Everyone mocked me, just because I was a woman. They tried to push me away from my dream, but I ignored them and kept walking my path until I got here. I know you see me as nothing more than a woman who belongs in the kitchen, but please, see me as a samurai, not just an ordinary woman." Genji grew angry and shouted, "You're leaving whether you like it or not." He raised his sword, nearly striking her, but in a flash, she disarmed him and stepped back. Genji, enraged, yelled, "Give me back my sword!" She returned it to him, when suddenly a criminal appeared behind him, ready to strike. Genji quickly pushed Sagiri aside to protect her, but the blow landed squarely on him, throwing him into a tree with brutal force. Sagiri rushed to him, trying to help, but realized his wounds were severe. He was dying. The criminal, Rokurota, didn't wait. He lunged at Sagiri to finish her off. But just then, the legend arrived. Yes, Gabimaru appeared, ready to fight. He quickly assessed the situation and asked Sagiri, "This man, is he just a criminal or something else? What's wrong with his eyes?" But Sagiri couldn't answer. She was frozen in shock. Gabimaru took a battle stance and said, "I'll take him down. But do you think Rokurota would go down that easily? Of course not." He picked up an entire tree with one hand and hurled it at them with terrifying force. Sagiri shielded the Asaemon with her body, while Gabimaru stood frozen, unsure of what to do. In that moment, Gabimaru remembered his clan leader's words, "Before you strike a foe, you must first understand them." He considered fleeing, leaving everyone behind, but he couldn't abandon Sagiriya. He backed off the idea and thought of a new plan. He called out to Yuzuriha for help, asking her to assist him so they could work together to defeat Rokurota. But she refused, saying, "You're the fighter. I'm just here to cheer you on, remember? I'm the intel source, not the muscle." Gabimaru grew frustrated. "Fine," he said, but the moment he looked back at Rokurota, the giant was already right in front of him, charging with a massive hand aimed to crush. Gabimaru narrowly dodged, but Rokurota kept attacking relentlessly. Gabimaru tried to block and counter, but he was barely holding on. Feeling trapped, Gabimaru kicked the ground, sending stones flying at Rokurota, but his body was like stone itself. Nothing worked. He tried other techniques, strikes, fire, evasions, but nothing made a difference. He started to feel helpless, like the end was near. Meanwhile, Sagiri was beside Genji, desperately trying to stop the bleeding. She cried and did her best to save him, but he knew his time was short. He said to her, "Leave me. There's no hope left for me. Go, Sagiri. Don't waste your time." But she refused to give up and kept trying to save him. Then, Genji handed her his sword and said, "This is the sword of an Asaimon. It's my soul. I'm giving it to you now. I won't tell you to run or to stay. I just ask you one thing. Kill Rokurota." At that moment, Sagiri remembered this was the criminal who had been Aizen's partner. She realized he was the one who killed him. Filled with rage, she gripped the sword and said, "I'll kill him." Gabimaru was completely cornered, having used all his techniques to no effect. He searched for any way to distract his opponent but had no one to assist him. Suddenly, Sagiri appeared. She slashed off one of Rokurota's fingers with her sword. Gabimaru was stunned by her strength. He asked her, "You cut off his finger. How the hell did you do that?" She replied, "The human body has gaps between the bones. I aimed for that space. If you plan to kill him, then I'll help." Gabimaru was fired up. Things were about to explode. They launched a coordinated attack. Gabimaru kept Rokurota distracted from the front, while Sagiri attacked from behind, aiming for his leg, but her sword couldn't pierce his skin. They tried again, repeating the plan, but Rokurota wasn't a fool. He let out a terrifying roar that shook everyone's ears. Gabimaru clutched his head in pain, giving Rokurota the perfect opening. He landed a crushing blow that sent Gabimaru crashing to the ground. Everyone was shocked. Gabimaru tried to stand, but his body was bleeding badly. Rokurota approached again, ready to deliver the finishing blow, but Sagiri charged at him, standing between them. She recalled every technique she had learned. She gathered all her strength into her sword and remembered Genji's words before he died. Her expression changed. Her stance transformed. She blocked his attack. She wielded her sword as if it were part of her own body, striking Rokurota's frame with incredible precision. Everyone was stunned by her sudden strength. Even Rokurota, now enraged, tried to strike back, but she countered his blows with stunning skill. He could no longer do anything against her. Gabimaru, watching from the side, was impressed by her power. He saw her courage, her growth. Sagiri knocked Rokurota to the ground. She was just about to finish him off, but suddenly, the beast fled. Rokurota had figured out their plan. He backed off and took a defensive stance, no longer underestimating them. Gabimaru gathered his strength, stood up again, and told Sagiri, "I have an idea." She agreed and prepared herself. Then, madness began. Gabimaru quickly cloaked himself in flames and shouted to Rokurota, "Come at me." He unleashed a violent fire attack, engulfing Rokurota and the surrounding forest. Though Rokurota wasn't severely harmed by the fire, Gabimaru didn't stop. He kept attacking, again and again, until his body was nearly spent. Yuzuriha, realizing Gabimaru's real intention, grabbed Senta and ran far from the area. Gabimaru's goal wasn't just to burn Rokurota, but to ignite the forest and flood the area with thick smoke. And because Rokurota was massive, he'd be the first to inhale the smoke, leading to suffocation. Sure enough, Rokurota inhaled large amounts of carbon monoxide. He dropped to his knees, coughing violently, trying to purge the smoke from his lungs, tears pouring from his eyes. That was the moment Sagiri had been waiting for. She gathered her strength, raised her sword, and prepared to strike. Rokurota noticed her movement and tried to lash out, but Gabimaru grabbed his arm and shouted to her, "Hurry! I can't hold him much longer." Sagiri gathered all her strength. She felt energy surge through her body, pinpointed her target with perfect precision, and then a clean, finishing blow. Yes, Sagiri had finally ended Rokuroto's torment. That poor creature, whose monstrous size led to his rejection by everyone, had never known companionship. He became isolated and eventually turned into a beast that killed and devoured humans. Sagiri had freed him from a life of endless suffering. She gently closed his eyes with compassion, slid her sword back into its sheath, then turned to Gabimaru and said, "Let's keep moving." They ran off together, away from the battlefield. As they ran, memories of Sagiri's fallen comrades flashed through her mind. Her eyes welled up with tears, but despite the sorrow, she pushed forward. At last, they emerged from that place, only to see a group of strange beasts heading toward the source of the fire. Gabimaru warned that they needed to stay away from them. Sagiri nodded, and they continued running in the opposite direction. Meanwhile, several criminals had noticed the blaze too, and fled away from it as well. After a long run, Gabimaru and Sagiri reached a high ridge, where they found Senta and Yuzuriha standing, staring down at something in complete shock. Gabimaru approached to warn them, but when he looked, he was stunned too. "What is that? A village?" At the same time, the two brothers were still fighting ruthlessly against the island's beasts. But the elder brother suddenly felt a strange energy radiating from a nearby area. He followed the source. They find two girls in a compromising position with each other, both extremely beautiful. The moment they see them, they're shocked and confused by what they witness. Suddenly, the girls notice them and say, "This is the first time we've seen a human reach this stage. You've reached your end." Shobo looks at them angrily and says, "Why are you acting like animals? Aren't you humans like us?" They reply, "We are the Tensen, and it seems you've never heard of us before." Then one of them transforms, their body changing into that of a man. The boys are stunned, unable to believe what they're seeing. We now return to Gabi, who, after witnessing the abandoned village, feels as though someone is watching him. When he turns around, he sees a young girl. As soon as she realizes he saw her, she runs, but Gabi chases after her. They encounter a strange creature, but Gabi ignores it and tells his friends to deal with it while he follows the girl. He catches up to her and tries to speak, but suddenly she grabs his hand and slams him to the ground with great force. Gabi is shocked. How could a girl like her do that to him? Saji arrives, calling to the girl and promising they're not here to hurt her, just to talk. The girl stops, and Saji approaches her gently, but suddenly, the girl tries to punch her. Gabi steps in just in time and takes the hit instead. The blow is so powerful that Gabi can hardly bear it. He says, "How does a child like you have such strength? I just wanted to talk, but you've pushed me to my limit." He grabs some plants, binds her with them, and hangs her from a tree, thinking she'll resist and show more of her power, but instead, she starts crying. He lets her down, and Saji tries to calm her while Gabi is left confused by what he's seeing. Then Tekka arrives and says, "I've finished what I was doing by that tree. Who's this girl? Did you find anything out about her?" Suddenly, they hear a voice say, "Let Mai go, and I'll give you everything you want. I'll tell you everything you wish to know." Everyone is surprised. How is the tree talking? The voice continues, "You'll learn everything. Just give me Mai first." They take Mai and walk with the voice toward the village. Though they don't trust it, it seems too weak to pose a threat. When they arrive at a house, Gabi says, "Enough. Tell us, how long have you lived here, and where can I find the Elixir of Immortality?" He said to them, "I am Hoko, and this is Mai. We have lived in this village for 1,000 years, leading a peaceful life without disturbance." But Gabi interrupted, "Are you going to tell us your life story? Just answer me directly. Where is the Elixir of Immortality?" Hoko replied, "You mean the Tenwaden? Whoever drinks it becomes immortal and never dies. This island is divided into 3 parts. The first is the shore where you landed. The second is the area we are in now, where this village lies. And the last is the place where you will die." Everyone was shocked by his words and asked him to explain. He continued, "In the last part of the island, you will find the Ten. But it is not alone. It is surrounded by the creatures known as the Tensen, monsters of incredible power that cannot be killed. Any part of them that is cut off grows back, and their regeneration is unmatched. No one has ever been able to stand against them. Whoever faces them fights until they collapse. Then they are thrown into a pit and transformed into plants of the island." This is exactly what happened to Shobo and Toma. When Gabi heard this, he grew excited, and with that, their conversation came to an end. That night, Gabi went to the bath to wash his wounds, where he found Mai standing there alone, with no one to guide her. Saji, who was with him, went over to Mai and saw that she seemed lost, unsure what to do. She noticed a scar on Mai's body, and Mai became afraid that someone might see it. Saji approached her with kindness, treating her like a daughter, and combed her hair. Mai felt immense happiness. Meanwhile, Gabi was watching the scene, and it reminded him of his former lover, who had a large scar on her face that she always tried to hide behind her hair, though she never succeeded. Whenever he looked into her eyes, she would feel embarrassed about her appearance, but Gabi reassured her, saying, "Don't ever cover your eyes with your hair again. I love you no matter what, and this scar doesn't take away from your beauty at all." The girl had been deeply touched by his words, and felt felt overwhelming happiness. Then Gabi looked back at Mai and said to her, "Don't be afraid if someone sees your scar. I once knew a girl with a large scar on her face, but I've never seen anyone in this world who could rival her beauty." He was speaking about his former lover. Saji was touched by his words, and Mai too moved closer to him and held on to him, her eyes expressing everything. She was filled with joy. Elsewhere, back on the beach, Tenza tells Sasha, "You know, if it weren't for my teacher, I'd be on death row like you, but he stood by me and helped me become someone worthy. 5 years ago, I was a failure. My parents were divorced and neither of them wanted me. I grew up in the streets, living a harsh life. I begged, stole food, slept wherever I wanted, woke up whenever I felt like it. I had no purpose. One day, I was attacking a group to steal from them. No remorse, no empathy. I just wanted what they had. Suddenly, a man appeared behind me, sword in hand, and said, 'Enough, come with me, I'll give you everything you need.' I followed him to his house, where I found out he was a martial arts master. He said, 'Stay with me, I'll teach you everything. I'll make you a master like me.' He started training me, but I was annoyed. I was used to doing whatever I wanted. I told him, 'I don't want anything from you, I don't want to learn.' He was about to let me go, but said, 'If you can land a single hit on me, I'll let you leave.' I got mad and said, 'Are you mocking me?' I attacked him, but couldn't even touch him. Tried again. Nothing. The day ended and I had achieved nothing. The next morning I woke up before everyone and left. One of the students saw me and said, 'Leaving without saying goodbye? That's rude.' Before I could respond, he said, 'Don't worry, no one will stop you, but come, let's walk a bit first, then go where you want.' I agreed. He took me to a grave and stood before it. He said, 'Know whose grave this is? Let me tell you. This is the grave of Master Shino's younger brother. He was a reckless boy like you, loved to live as he pleased, and didn't want anyone telling him what to do. One day he left home to live on his own. Master Shino didn't stop him, and simply let him do as he wished. Later, after Master Shino was promoted and became one of the executioners, he was assigned to carry out the execution of a certain prisoner. He raised the sword, but couldn't bring it down. He realized it was his younger brother. His brother, sensing his pain, said, 'I'm sorry I let you down. Execute me and move on. I brought this upon myself.' Both were overcome with grief. And so Tenza, Master Shino, killed his own brother with his own hands, unable to save him. Tenza was deeply moved. He realized he was just like that brother. When the teacher woke up and came to the training yard, Tenza stood before him and said, 'I'm with you. I won't leave until you teach me everything.' The teacher was overjoyed, and that's how I became an executioner." Sasha is touched and says, "I'm happy for you, and that you made the right choice by going with him." Suddenly, someone descends from the sky. They are both shocked. "Who are you? How did you get here?" The figure glares, his shape changes, and his voice turns rougher. "I heard there are guests on the island, so I came to kill them." The boys panic and try to escape, but Tenza finds him blocking the way. He punches Tenza so hard he's sent flying and can't move. Sasha rushes to him, but the monster attacks. She dodges skillfully and checks on Tenza. The creature approaches. Tenza slices off its head, but to their horror, it starts regenerating. He attacks again, cuts off all its limbs, grabs Sasha, and escapes, thinking he finished it off. But the creature comes back again, and suddenly a sword slices off its head. They turn to see Tenza's teacher. They flee to a quiet place. Tenza exclaims to Sasha, "That's the teacher I told you about." She's relieved they have a powerful ally now. The teacher says, "We must leave immediately. I tried escaping by sea but faced monsters there and couldn't board the ship." Tenza says they experience the same. Suddenly, they find the monster beside them again. It says, "Are you mocking me?" The teacher tries to flee with the kids, but suddenly he feels a wound on his neck without even noticing the attack. He's shocked by the overwhelming power. Tenza, furious, launches a flurry of rapid attacks, so fast a normal person couldn't even follow, but the monster dodges with ease, not even letting him land a hit. The monster scoffs, "Is that all?" and strikes him hard. At that moment, Tenza realizes his end is near. He looks at Sasha and his teacher and says, "If I'm going to die, I must buy them time to escape." He fights with all he's got. The teacher watches in despair. He wants to help, but his injury is too severe. Tenza takes another blow and falls. He's completely immobilized. He tries to call out for the teacher to take Sasha and run, but he can't speak. The teacher grabs Sasha and runs. She cries, "Don't leave him. I want to go back and save him before he dies." But Tenza had already passed, lying in a pool of his own blood. Sasha looks at the teacher in rage. "Why did you do this? Why did you run? Why didn't you try to help him? If we died with him, so be it." The teacher weeps and says, "This is what Tenza wanted. He gave his life so we could escape. He tried to speak, but he couldn't. I swear to you, I won't return to the city until I've avenged his death." He was overwhelmed with sorrow. At that time, on the other hand, Gabi was in the central area, wanting to explore the rest of the island. However, everyone else was too afraid to move, so he waited until they had fallen asleep, then left, heading toward the heart of the island where the Tao was. He reached a fog-covered place, where he could no longer see anything, and there he realized he had entered the central region. Strange sounds reached his ears, and he discovered that the trees were their source. He did not understand what was happening, but he continued on his way. Then, he found a house surrounded by high walls and a large gate. He approached the gate and knocked, hoping someone would open it. Suddenly, a creature known as Tensun appeared behind him, but Gabi paid it no attention. The creature spoke. "I am Tayo. I killed one of your people earlier, and I don't want to kill anyone else. Leave now without causing trouble, or you'll regret it." Gabi replied, "Fine. Tell me where the Tao is, and I'll leave you alone." The other became enraged and said, "If you know where the Tao is, then you must die now." Then he attacked with full force. Gabi blocked the blow and broke his leg, enraging Tayo even further. Tayo healed himself, then attacked again. Gabi easily dodged the strike and countered with a blow that broke his neck and engulfed him in searing flames. Thinking his opponent was finished, Gabi was surprised when Tayo rose again and delivered a punch that sent him crashing through a wall. "That's enough," Tayo said. "You're the second person I'll kill today." But Gabi stood up and replied, "You'll need more than that," shocking Tayo. They clashed again. Tayo struck Gabi down, but Gabi seized his arm and tore it off. Tayo healed himself again, and the fight resumed. Gabi skillfully dodged each attack, waiting for the right moment. Gathering all his strength into one leg, he delivered a powerful strike that weakened Tayo's body. Enraged, Tayo unleashed a new long-range attack that Gabi could neither see nor withstand. As the assaults intensified, Gabi thought of his beloved, mustered his strength, endured the pain, and pushed forward until he was close enough to strike with all his might. Tayo countered, but Gabi's relentless speed left him unable to block, and Gabi tore his body apart completely. Tayo collapsed, unable to move, his body no longer regenerating. Gabi glared at him and said, "I know you're still alive. Tell me where the Tao is before I kill you." But Tayo laughed maliciously, his body turning into flowers before shifting into a demonic form, growing in size and changing shape, shocking Gabi. "Prepare yourself," Tayo growled. "This is your end," as he unleashed electric waves that shattered Gabi's defenses. Gabi recovered and attacked, but another blow sent him flying. He tried to rise again but failed. Seizing the moment, Tayo rained down relentless strikes until Gabi was completely exhausted. Tayo grabbed him, while Gabi realized in that moment he could do nothing more. He thought to himself, "I've realized I'm a weak opponent. Without enough power to face these fierce monsters, I won't be able to see my beloved again. I've lost hope," and accepted the reality that not everything a person wishes for comes true. At that moment, he ignited what little strength he had left, attacked the monster, and collapsed in his own blood. Tayo gathered immense energy to destroy the entire island, but suddenly, Mai appeared, shielding them with her power. She blocked the blow, sending both herself and Gabi flying away from him. And that's the end of this part of the story. If you enjoyed it, consider liking the video and subscribe, and peace out.